Have you ever wondered why some people seem to grow lonelier as they age, while others remain surrounded by love and connection? What if I told you the difference isn't about luck or circumstances, but about subtle habits most of us don't even realize we're developing? As we get older, we all pick up certain patterns of behavior. Small, almost invisible habits that can quietly push people away, damage our relationships, and make life significantly harder than it needs to be. The most troubling part? Most of us don't even notice we're doing these things until we find ourselves wondering why our phone rarely rings or why visits from family members have become shorter and less frequent. But here's the good news. Once you recognize these habits, you can change them. In today's video, I'm going to share 9 hidden habits that might be silently sabotaging your happiness, health, and relationships in your golden years. Plus, I'll offer simple, practical ways to break free from each one. Why should you watch until the end? Because the 7th habit I'll discuss is one that most people completely overlook, yet it's often the most damaging to our closest relationships. By the time we finish, you'll have a clear roadmap for identifying these patterns in your own life and specific strategies for transforming them into habits that attract rather than repel connection. So stay with me to discover how to spot these habits before they take control, how to rebuild connections you thought were lost, and how to age with purpose and joy instead of isolation and regret. Whether you've been feeling disconnected, stuck, or just curious about what might be holding you back from the fulfilling later years you deserve, this video is for you. Before we dive in, if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button and activate the notification bell so you won't miss any future videos. Your support means the world to me, and if you find this content valuable, you can help me continue sharing these important insights by liking and sharing this video. If you enjoy today's topic, please comment 1 below. If you'd prefer different content, comment 0 to let me know how I can better serve your needs. Now, let's begin with the first hidden habit that might be affecting your relationships and quality of life. Becoming overly negative or critical. Meet Sarah, a 73-year-old retired teacher who never imagined she'd become someone who harbored negativity. She always thought of herself as simply being honest, speaking her mind, and telling it like it is. But as the years passed, something subtle began to shift. It started innocently enough, a small sigh here, a fleeting complaint there. Mornings began with acknowledging the familiar aches and pains of aging, muttering about getting older. These seemed like harmless grumbles, didn't they? But gradually, this pattern of negativity began to bleed into other aspects of her day. She'd watch the news and feel her frustration growing with every report, experiencing an overwhelming sense of helplessness and anger about the state of the world. When speaking with younger relatives, her words would turn sharp. "Back in my day, we had more respect," she'd say with a roll of her eyes, as if today's youth were somehow failing her generation. At first, Sarah didn't notice the toll this negativity was taking on her relationships. It seemed harmless enough, just honest opinions, right? But slowly, conversations became shorter. Friends began avoiding deeper talks, instinctively steering clear of topics they knew would lead to another rant. Even her grandchildren, once eager to visit, began making excuses not to spend time with her. What Sarah couldn't see was the slow, insidious drain her negativity created. No matter how justified our complaints might feel, the truth is that no one wants to leave a conversation feeling worse than when they arrived. Negativity acts like a weight, pulling people down and making them recoil rather than connect. It's surprisingly easy to slip into this cycle of criticism. Life can feel overwhelming as the world changes around us, especially when things don't make sense or feel comfortable anymore. Our bodies don't function the way they used to. Activities that were once second nature, like shopping, driving, or using technology, can suddenly become sources of frustration. Venting about these challenges might provide momentary relief, but when negativity becomes your default mode, it transforms from a way to process emotions into a shield that isolates you from others. So how can you shift this energy? Try starting conversations with something positive instead of leading with complaints. Consider beginning with gratitude. "I woke up feeling good today," or "the sunset was beautiful last night," can become part of your daily reflections. Positive energy has a magnetic quality. People are naturally drawn to those who uplift them rather than weigh them down. When you do need to vent, and we all do sometimes, set limits. Give yourself a couple of minutes to express frustrations, then consciously move on to something more constructive. Remember that curiosity is far more powerful than criticism. Instead of dismissing things you don't understand, like your grandchildren's interests in apps or games, try saying, "Tell me more about that." This simple phrase creates connection rather than pushing people away. When Sarah started making these small changes, leading with positivity, showing genuine interest in her grandchildren's lives, and expressing gratitude more often, she noticed a remarkable shift. Conversations lasted longer. People began opening up to her again. Slowly, the warmth of connection that had been missing came rushing back. What Sarah learned, painfully at first, was that the energy we put into the world is the energy we receive in return. If you want connection, you have to give it. And it starts with how you speak, how you show up, and ultimately, how you choose to see the world. Let's explore the second hidden habit: ignoring personal hygiene and appearance. There was a time when Sarah took pride in her appearance. She always chose the perfect outfit, applied her makeup with care, and ensured her hair was styled beautifully before leaving the house. She had a collection of lovely clothes, blouses in every color, and a signature scent she wore with confidence. But as the years went by, something began to change. It started with small things: skipping hair appointments or opting for comfortable but shapeless clothes instead of the stylish outfits she once enjoyed. She began asking herself, "Why bother? I'm not trying to impress anyone anymore." Over time, Sarah found herself staying in her house clothes all day, rarely glancing in the mirror. She convinced herself it didn't matter, but deep down, something was shifting. She was starting to feel different, and it wasn't just about how others saw her, it was about how she saw herself. Sarah began to notice changes in how people treated her. Strangers who once complimented her on her bright outfits now barely made eye contact. Friends who regularly invited her out for lunch or to a movie started asking less frequently. When Sarah looked at old photos of herself, she hardly recognized the vibrant woman she had been. Where had that woman gone? The truth Sarah hadn't fully grasped was that how we present ourselves affects not only how others perceive us but also how we perceive ourselves. Personal appearance isn't about vanity, it's about self-respect and honoring the person you are, regardless of age. It's about showing up for yourself, feeling good in your skin, and making the statement that you matter. How can you reverse this pattern if you've fallen into it? Start with small, manageable steps. Get dressed even if you're not going anywhere special. It doesn't need to be a designer outfit. Just clean, well-fitting clothes that make you feel comfortable and good about yourself. Taking a shower, brushing your hair, trimming your nails. These small acts of self-care send a powerful message: I am worth this effort. Wearing something you love, something that brings you joy, can elevate your spirit. Those small details, like a spritz of perfume or a favorite piece of jewelry, can make all the difference. They remind you of who you are, of the person you've always been and are still becoming. When Sarah started paying attention to these simple habits again, brushing her hair, wearing her favorite blouse, even putting on a little lipstick, she noticed something magical happening. She started feeling lighter, more confident, and yes, even beautiful again. People began to smile at her when she walked into a room. She felt seen, and more importantly, she felt like herself again. It was as though the vibrant woman she thought she had lost was quietly returning, not just in the eyes of others but in her own perception of herself. Remember, taking care of your appearance isn't about trying to look younger, it's about honoring the person you are today. The third hidden habit that can significantly impact your quality of life is becoming stubborn and resistant to change. Sarah had always prided herself on knowing exactly what she liked and how she liked it. She was set in her ways, and that had always been her comfort zone. After all, why change what had worked for decades? But when her children and grandchildren started communicating through text messages instead of phone calls, Sarah resisted. "I don't need to learn all that," she would say, dismissing their offers to teach her. If they want to talk to me, they can pick up the phone. Over time, though, those phone calls became fewer and farther between. Family updates, pictures, and birthday reminders began arriving only in group chats she refused to join. She didn't realize it at first, but she was shutting herself off from the people she loved most. It wasn't just about technology, it was about staying connected, being part of their lives, about love itself. But Sarah's stubbornness had begun to isolate her. The truth is, change is inevitable. Life moves forward, and it's easy to feel resistant when it seems like the world is leaving you behind. The trick, however, is to stay open. It's easy to say, I don't need that, but there's a quiet strength in saying, I'll try. Saying yes to change, no matter how small, keeps you engaged and mentally sharp. You don't have to become an expert overnight. Start with small things. Let your grandchildren teach you how to send a text message or watch a show they love. Instead of rejecting change, embrace it. You don't know what you're missing until you try. When Sarah finally allowed her granddaughter to teach her how to text, she was surprised by how simple it actually was. What surprised her even more was the flood of connection she had been missing. Daily photos of her great-grandchildren, inside jokes, quick check-ins that made her feel like she belonged. By letting go of her resistance, she was able to embrace something far more valuable than new technology: connection. It wasn't just about learning to text, it was about staying in touch with the people who mattered most. In doing so, she not only gained access to new ways of communicating but also found a deeper sense of love and connection in her relationships. The fourth hidden habit that can diminish your quality of life is hoarding and refusing to let go of clutter. Sarah had always been sentimental. To her, every item in her home held a story, a memory, a piece of the past she couldn't bear to part with. There were old birthday cards that hadn't seen the light of day in decades, stacks of newspapers she promised herself she'd read someday, and clothes she hadn't worn in years but couldn't let go of. She kept them just in case. Over the years, her once cozy home, a peaceful sanctuary, had transformed into an overwhelming maze of things cluttering every corner, shelf, and room. She couldn't deny it anymore. What was once a haven had become a battlefield filled with items she barely touched but couldn't bring herself to release. At first, Sarah didn't think there was a problem. She convinced herself that everything had value, often saying, I might need it someday. It felt safe, comforting, even reassuring to keep it all. But in truth, the overwhelming clutter had begun to suffocate the life out of her home, her peace, and her spirit. As time passed, she found herself growing more exhausted just trying to clean and navigate through the piles. It became harder to keep her home in order, to find what she needed, and even to invite people over without feeling ashamed of the mess. Her once inviting space was now a reminder of how she had become trapped in the past, unwilling to release what no longer served her. When her daughter gently suggested, maybe you should think about letting go of a few things, Sarah resisted with every fiber of her being. What if I need them later? She argued. But in reality, the clutter didn't just fill her home, it was filling her mind too. The stress of holding on to so much weighed on her, blocking the joy of the present and clouding her sense of peace. It wasn't just about things, it was about the emotional baggage she had accumulated along with them. Letting go is never easy, especially when it feels like a piece of your heart is tied to each object. But here's the truth. Holding on to too much, whether material possessions or emotional baggage, can create a sense of being stuck in the past, unable to move forward, unable to embrace the present. It's a silent thief that robs you of clarity and peace of mind. Breaking free from clutter doesn't happen all at once. It requires patience, kindness toward yourself, and the courage to face the truth that you don't need everything you've been holding on to. How does one begin to break free from this overwhelming mess? Start small. Tackle one drawer, one shelf, or one box at a time. The thought of decluttering everything at once can feel like an insurmountable task, but breaking it down into manageable chunks makes it more bearable. Ask yourself, do I use this? Does it bring me joy? If the answer is no, then it's time to say goodbye. Donate items that can be of use to someone else, recycle things that are no longer useful, or pass on meaningful items to family members who will cherish them. Turn decluttering into a habit, a simple, everyday practice. Set a small goal. Get rid of one item each day. This small but consistent action can lead to profound transformation over time. Let's not forget the practical aspect. Clutter doesn't just create mental stress, it can also be dangerous, increasing the risk of falls, accidents, and injuries. A home isn't just a place to live. It should be a place where you feel safe, at ease, and at peace. When Sarah finally decided to take the plunge and declutter, something magical happened. The weight lifted from her shoulders, and the transformation wasn't just physical. She donated clothes she hadn't worn in years, recycled old magazines that had been gathering dust, and organized her living space in a way that made it easier to find the things that truly mattered. For the first time in years, Sarah felt a sense of peace in her home. It wasn't just cleaner, it was lighter, brighter, and more welcoming. She experienced a new sense of freedom that came from releasing the past and embracing the present. Most importantly, she found herself excited to invite friends over again, something she hadn't felt comfortable doing in far too long. The fifth hidden habit that can damage your relationships is losing patience with others too quickly. Sarah had never thought of herself as an impatient person. She had always tried to be kind, understanding, and forgiving. But as time went on, she noticed small cracks appearing in her patience. Tiny moments where irritation flared up and she lost control of her composure. One afternoon, she was at the grocery store, standing in line with a cart full of items. The young cashier was taking his time, fumbling with the bags, and Sarah felt frustration building within her. Why is he so slow? Can't he move a little faster? She thought, feeling her temper rise. The words escaped her lips before she could stop them. Come on, can you hurry up? The moment those words left her mouth, she saw the cashier's face fall. He looked down, his hands trembling slightly as he tried to finish his task. That's when it hit her. This young man was new, nervous, and doing his best. And here she was, snapping at him as if he were the cause of her stress. She immediately felt a pang of guilt. Was she becoming the very person she used to dislike? The person who was quick to judge, quick to snap, and slow to show grace? The realization hit hard. As we grow older, it's easy to lose patience with others. Life moves at a different pace, and it's frustrating when the world around us doesn't move as quickly as we would like. But the truth is, impatience doesn't just make life harder for others, it makes it harder for us too. It raises our stress levels, clouds our judgment, and poisons our interactions with the people we encounter. So how do we learn to stay patient and kind, especially when life feels like it's moving too slowly? The first step is simple. Pause before reacting. When you feel irritation creeping in, take a deep breath. Ask yourself, is this worth getting upset over? Remind yourself that the slow driver might be someone's grandfather, and the cashier fumbling with the bags could be a student just trying to do their best. A little patience goes a long way. The next time you feel frustration bubbling up, try shifting your perspective. Instead of snapping, offer a smile, a kind word, or a simple, take your time. Sarah did this the next time she saw the same young cashier. She smiled warmly, complimented him on his efforts, and told him he was doing a great job. His face lit up, and in that moment, Sarah realized just how powerful kindness can be. It doesn't take much to make someone's day or to ease their burden. Patience isn't just a gift to others, it's a gift to ourselves. Choosing patience over frustration leads to less stress, better interactions, and a more peaceful heart. Remember, everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about. A moment of patience in a moment of anger can save you 100 moments of regret. The sixth hidden habit that can isolate you from loved ones is talking too much and not listening enough. Sarah had always loved to talk. She had a wealth of stories to share, advice to give, and memories to relive. Over the years, she had become known as the storyteller in the family. But there was one problem. She didn't realize how often she dominated conversations. One day her daughter, who had been calling less and less frequently, finally opened up to her. "Mom, I love talking to you," she confessed, "but sometimes I don't feel heard. It feels like our calls are all about you, and I never get to share what's on my mind." Sarah was stunned. How had she not seen it? She realized that every time they spoke, she would jump in with her own experiences, stories, and advice without even pausing to listen. The truth was, Sarah had become so focused on sharing her wisdom that she forgot to give her daughter space to speak, to be heard. She had been talking, but not listening. As we age, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking we have all the answers. We want to share our life lessons, to impart the wisdom we've accumulated over the years. But if we don't take the time to listen, to truly hear our loved ones, we risk pushing them away. Sarah had to face the reality that in her desire to share, she had unintentionally isolated herself from the people she loved most. The key to better conversations is balance. Don't just talk. Listen. If you've been speaking for a while, pause and ask, "What about you? How have things been for you?" Make a conscious effort to show genuine interest in what the other person is saying. Resist the urge to interrupt, even if you have a great story to tell that relates perfectly to what they're saying. Give the other person space to speak. Ask open-ended questions that invite real conversation. Instead of simply asking, "How are you?" try asking, "What's something exciting that happened this week?" The next time Sarah talked to her daughter, she made a conscious effort to listen. She asked more questions, gave her daughter the floor, and only offered advice when it was truly needed. The results were nothing short of amazing. Their conversations became longer, warmer, and more meaningful. Sarah learned that the best conversations aren't about talking more, they're about listening better. And in that simple act of listening, she rediscovered the beauty of connection. Remember, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should listen twice as much as we speak. The 7th hidden habit that can profoundly isolate you is pushing people away instead of asking for help. Sarah had always prided herself on being fiercely independent. It was her identity, her way of life. She had spent decades nurturing and caring for others, raising her children with all the love she could muster, managing a bustling household with efficiency, and even offering her hand to neighbors in need. It felt good to be needed, to be the one people turned to. But as the years passed, something started to change. The simple tasks that used to come easily to her began to feel like insurmountable obstacles. One afternoon, she struggled to lift a heavy grocery bag from her car, her arms trembling with the weight. A young man walking by noticed her struggle and, with a kind smile, offered his help. "Need a hand with that?" he asked. Sarah, in her pride, forced a smile and shook her head. "No, thank you. I've got it," she replied. But she didn't. As she dragged the heavy bag inside, the ache in her back intensified, and a wave of frustration and isolation washed over her. Each step felt heavier than the last, not just because of the physical strain but because of the emotional toll of rejecting someone's kindness. She had pushed away someone who was simply trying to help, someone who saw her struggle and wanted to ease it. And in that moment, Sarah felt more alone than ever before. Later that night, as she sat in the quiet of her home, a painful realization hit her like a cold gust of wind. Her refusal to ask for help, to accept help, wasn't making her stronger. No, it was slowly pulling her away from the very connections that had once brought her comfort. She was choosing isolation over connection, independence over interdependence. Why is asking for help a sign of strength, not weakness? Because asking for help doesn't make you a burden, it allows others the opportunity to care for you, to show their love and support. People genuinely want to help, but if you continue to shut them out, eventually they will stop offering. And when that happens, you'll find yourself not just physically burdened but emotionally starved. When you accept help, it fosters connection. It builds bridges between hearts, creating moments of shared humanity that go beyond the task at hand. Whether it's holding a door open, lifting a heavy load, or offering an empathetic ear, letting others help makes life easier not just physically but emotionally. It's a reminder that we are not meant to struggle alone. And when you let others feel useful, you're giving them a gift. Can you imagine a life where no one ever needed your help? You'd feel unimportant, unneeded. So why deny others the joy of assisting you? Sarah realized she had to change. The next time someone offered help, she promised herself she would stop being so prideful. She'd say yes. The next time she was at the store and saw that young man again, Sarah smiled warmly and said, "Actually, I could use a little help today." His face brightened, and as he grabbed the bag from her hands, Sarah felt a weight lift, not from her back, but from her heart. In that simple exchange, something deep inside her shifted. She felt seen, valued, and most importantly, connected. Have you ever found yourself struggling to ask for help or felt the joy of offering it to someone else? It's a humbling experience that reminds us we are all in this together. It's okay to let others in. In fact, it's essential for a fulfilling life. The eighth hidden habit that can prevent you from fully enjoying your later years is being too frugal to enjoy life. Sarah had always been the picture of financial prudence. She was a natural at budgeting, clipping coupons with enthusiasm, skipping vacations with ease, and hesitating long before making any purchase that wasn't absolutely necessary. While she had a comfortable amount saved up, there was always that gnawing worry at the back of her mind. What if I need this money later? What if something unexpected happens? It was a constant cycle of saving, saving, saving. But for what? What was the point of accumulating wealth if she wasn't using it to live the life she dreamed of? One day, Sarah's best friend Emily invited her on a weekend trip to the countryside. "It'll be so much fun, Sarah," Emily said, her voice filled with excitement. "We'll explore, eat good food, and just relax." Sarah's immediate instinct was to say no. Traveling meant spending money. Restaurants meant spending money. Everything about it made her anxious. What if I regret spending that money, she thought. But deep down, a small voice whispered, "When was the last time I treated myself?" 4 years, Sarah had lived in the mindset of saving for one day. But as she stood there, staring at Emily's invitation, Sarah couldn't help but wonder, what if that one day never comes? What am I saving for if I'm not living now? Why does enjoying your money matter? Being financially responsible is indeed important, but life isn't just about stacking up savings, it's about living, truly living. Experiences like travel, outings, or hobbies bring more lasting joy than any material possession ever could. Studies show that spending on experiences creates memories that linger long after the purchase is forgotten, while things, objects, gadgets, clothes, lose their value with time. Sarah had worked hard her whole life to get to this stage, to build financial security. But security without fulfillment is like an empty vessel. The key to a well-rounded life is balance. Enjoying the fruits of your labor doesn't diminish your achievements, it honors them. So how can one change this habit? Sarah decided to give herself permission to spend, to enjoy life's little pleasures. Whether it was a dinner out, a spontaneous hobby, or a weekend getaway, she vowed to prioritize experiences that nourished her soul. She even set aside a fun fund, an account specifically for her enjoyment. The next time Emily asked her to join the weekend trip, Sarah hesitated no longer. She said yes. And oh, what a difference it made. She laughed more in those 2 days than she had in months. She felt the sun on her face, tasted the joy of good food with good company, and most importantly, remembered how to live fully. When she watched the sunset with Emily, she realized this was what she had been saving for all along. The moments, the memories, the connection. Money was meant to support her happiness, not just sit untouched in a bank. What experience have you been putting off because of money? Life isn't waiting for you to be ready. The time is now. The ninth and final hidden habit that can damage your relationships with younger generations is talking down to them and dismissing their experiences. Sarah adored her grandson Noah. His visits were the highlight of her week. She loved hearing about his school life, his hobbies, and especially his passion for video games. But lately, those visits had felt different, more distant. Their conversations had become strained, awkward even. She noticed Noah was less eager to talk, more absorbed in his phone than in their time together. One afternoon, Noah brought up a new app he was excited about. Without thinking, Sarah sighed and shook her head. Back in my day, we didn't need all this technology. Kids went outside to play, not stare at screens all day. Noah went quiet. A few minutes later, he mumbled, "I should probably get going." The door clicked shut behind him, and Sarah was left alone, a sharp sting of regret hitting her chest. She hadn't meant to push him away, but she had. Her words, though meant to share wisdom, had only served to make him feel dismissed and invalidated. In her attempt to connect, she had unintentionally built a wall between them. Why does talking down to younger generations push them away? It's easy to get stuck in the nostalgia of the good old days, but constantly reminding younger people that things were better in the past can make them feel like their experiences and challenges don't matter. Instead of fostering understanding, it creates division. Every generation faces its own unique set of challenges, its own battles. And instead of criticizing them for it, we should be lifting them up, offering support and encouragement. So how can we change this habit? The next time Noah mentioned something new, Sarah took a deep breath and said, "That sounds interesting. Tell me more." She didn't dismiss it. Instead, she chose curiosity. She made an effort to understand his world, to ask questions that made him feel heard. And when Noah explained his game strategy, something beautiful happened. They connected, not through criticism but through mutual respect. Their conversation flowed freely, and for the first time in a long while, they shared a moment of genuine connection. What about you? Have you ever struggled to relate to younger generations? What helped bridge the gap? Sometimes it's not about changing them, it's about understanding them, seeing the world through their eyes, and meeting them where they are. These 9 habits, becoming too negative, neglecting personal appearance, resisting change, hoarding possessions, losing patience, talking without listening, refusing help, being overly frugal, and dismissing younger generations, can silently erode our relationships and quality of life as we age. But recognizing them is the first step toward change. Beyond these specific habits, there's one more vital element to consider as we navigate our later years: the importance of letting go of grudges and regrets. Holding on to past hurts is like carrying a heavy weight that slowly wears you down bit by bit. It's more than just a mental burden, it seeps into every corner of your life, stealing your present joy and clouding your perspective. Have you ever caught yourself remembering a past injustice or betrayal, and suddenly you're not only reliving the pain, but it's as if the world around you dims a little? That's the grip of resentment. The more tightly we clutch these negative memories, the more distant we become from the love and joy that surrounds us today. It's painful to admit, but bitterness can quietly erode our relationships. It creeps in almost unnoticed, making it harder to connect with those we care about. Without realizing it, that resentment grows into a wall that divides us from our loved ones. In the worst cases, it turns into anger, which builds over time until our hearts feel hardened, and we're left wondering why we feel so alone, even in a crowd. Let's not forget about the toll grudges take on our health. They're more than just emotional baggage, there's stress that lingers in our bodies. The constant tension and negativity can raise blood pressure, disturb sleep, and even damage the immune system. We can try to ignore it, but deep down, we know it's affecting us. There's no running away from the consequences of holding onto past pain. So how do we let go and find the emotional freedom we so deeply deserve? It starts with accepting the harsh truth that the past can't be undone. What's done is done, and no matter how many times we replay those moments in our minds, they won't change. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" try flipping that question around. What can I learn from this? In doing so, we free ourselves from the grip of the past and empower ourselves to shape a future that's healthier and happier. Forgiveness is key, not for the person who hurt us, but for ourselves. When we forgive, we're not excusing bad behavior. We're releasing its power over us. We're setting ourselves free. It's a hard truth, but letting go of grudges isn't a sign of weakness, it's an act of courage and strength. It's about regaining control of our lives, our peace, and our hearts. Sarah's story is a testament to this journey. For years, she carried the burden of past hurts. Then one evening, with a piece of paper in her hands, she decided it was time to let it all go. She poured her heart out on that page, every regret, every wound, and with a deep breath, she allowed herself to finally release them. In that moment, something inside her shifted. For the first time in a long while, she felt lighter, freer. The weight that had been dragging her down for years lifted, allowing her to move forward. This act of release opened her heart to new joy, including the simple pleasure of laughter. As Sarah sat in her quiet living room, flipping through old photo albums, she remembered a time when life was full of laughter, joy, and excitement. She saw pictures of herself playing with her grandkids, dancing at family parties, smiling in the sun. She realized that somewhere along the way, she had stopped seeking out that kind of joy. Life had become routine, dull even. But when Emily invited her over for movie night, something in Sarah decided to say yes. That night, as laughter bubbled up from deep within her, Sarah felt a piece of herself awaken. The joy that had been buried for so long was still there, waiting to be rediscovered. And for the first time in a while, she remembered what it felt like to laugh until your stomach hurts and tears fill your eyes. Laughter truly is medicine for the soul. It's not just about fun or games, it's a vital part of our emotional and physical well-being. It lowers stress, boosts immunity, improves circulation, and even helps with memory. The simple act of laughing can bring us closer to those around us, strengthening bonds and nurturing relationships. As we age, laughter becomes a reminder that we can still feel young at heart. It's a gentle nudge to live with joy and to embrace the simple pleasures life offers. Sarah left Emily's house that night with a lighter heart, realizing that joy wasn't something you just stumbled upon, it was something you chose. The next morning, instead of watching the news or letting her routine dictate her day, she cranked up her favorite music and danced around her kitchen. That moment of laughter, that decision to invite joy back into her life, was the beginning of something beautiful. And it's never too late to make that choice for yourself. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Create it. Choose joy. As we reflect on the 9 habits we've discussed today, from negativity and neglecting appearance to resisting change and holding grudges, I hope you found insights that resonate with your own experience. Perhaps you recognized patterns in yourself or someone you love. The good news is that awareness is the first step toward positive change. Which of these habits resonated most strongly with you? Was it the tendency toward negativity, the resistance to change, or perhaps the reluctance to ask for help? Maybe it was the reminder about the importance of letting go of grudges or the value of choosing joy. Whatever insights you're taking away, I'd love to hear from you. What's one habit you're committed to changing or one practice you're planning to implement in your life moving forward? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to make their own positive changes. If you found value in today's video, please hit that like button, share it with someone who might benefit, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us create more content designed to enhance the quality of life for seniors everywhere. Remember, it's never too late to break these habits and create new, healthier patterns. Each small change builds on the last, creating a ripple effect that can transform your relationships and overall well-being. The golden years should truly be golden, filled with connection, purpose, and joy. In our next video, we'll explore simple, practical activities that can help rebuild connections with loved ones, even if you feel those relationships have become strained. So be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. I'd like to leave you with one final thought. Aging isn't just about adding years to your life, it's about adding life to your years. And that life becomes richer, more meaningful, and more joyful when we're connected to others in authentic ways. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Until next time, remember that small changes can lead to big transformations. Take care of yourself, and take that first step toward positive change today.